of the Boulevard. The season is coming to a close, winding down the regular season. We're entering conference championships. We got a lot to talk about. We got a new bracket. I hope everyone had a great holiday week. Stuffed themselves, enjoyed the football, the basketball. There was a lot of good games on. Um, but with that being said, we get back to business here. Moving on to conference championships, and we're going to kind of look at this bracket and start breaking it down. Initial thoughts on the bracket, fellas. I'll kind of go over it here, and then we'll kind of dive into it. So your college football playoff bracket now is Oregon still holding that one spot. Texas is holding that two spot. SMU moves into the three spot with Miami losing. Boise State is at 4. Your other conference champion projected would be Arizona State at 12. And then your non conference teams are Penn State at 5, Notre Dame at 6, Georgia at 7, Ohio State at 8, Tennessee at 9, Indiana at 10, and Alabama sneaking in with 3 losses at 11. Initial thoughts, guys. What are you thinking here? I have some questions I want to ask, but I just want initial thoughts to start out.
Man, the committee was always going to try to sneak Alabama in here somehow, some way, even with this third loss. Like, I don't think it's a surprise to any of us in like our heart of hearts, but surely disappointed.
My biggest takeaway from this one is that there's only two teams left, like as far as that aren't locked in, and that's Clemson and Bama. Right? Clemson wins, they're automatically in, and the bracket is set. Clemson loses, then Alabama gets in. We've sat here on this podcast and advocated for South Carolina. We've advocated for these other teams, but the committee has pretty much said it's Alabama, Clemson, and that's it. So the ACC championship game has a lot riding on it. Yeah, that was my biggest takeaway. Is really just it's between Clemson and Bama for that last spot.
Big T, you got anything to add?
Not really. I really didn't think that there was any way that Bama was going to sneak their way in there, but I really thought it would be Miami instead with only 2 losses. But I don't know. Somehow Bama's resume is better, I guess. So they got in. But I personally would rather see Miami in that spot over Bama.
I was
Yeah,
gonna come on this podcast last week and advocate to take a future on Bama, just a flyer. They were 80-1 to win it all last week. Um, just
fair.
because they are Bama, like they'll always get the benefit of the doubt. I want to say last I checked, they were down to 20-1,
Yeah,
16-1 now.
16-1. Yeah, but
Yeah.
last week they were 80-1 at the time of the podcast, and I was gonna throw it out there, but I didn't think as much chaos was gonna happen as that has happened. So I didn't actually say it, but yeah, as of right now, I want to say Bama's minus 210 to get into the playoffs. Um, I want to say that was on FanDuel. So they're favored right now to make the CFP. And as of right now, I would assume they get in when
yeah,
it's all said and done.
they're minus 500 on Bet Online right now to make the playoff, and then to win the Natty, they're sitting at plus 1400. So
Yeah. But real quick, I don't really get that line. How could they be minus 500 to make the playoff? Shouldn't that be the same? Like, shouldn't that value be the same as SMU money line? Because the only way they get in is if SMU beats Clemson, right? Like, is there a path
yeah,
for Bama to get in if SMU if Clemson wins? Like, how else would they get in? You know what I mean?
yeah, no,
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
If you if
No, I mean, I wouldn't think so. I mean, I think they're Clemson's biggest fan this weekend, or
so if,
SMU's biggest fan this weekend.
so if you think Bama's gonna make the playoff, there's no sense in laying that minus 500. You're just better
No,
off betting SM. You're better off betting SMU money line
yeah,
because there's no other way they could possibly get in besides that. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Cyanide Gaming says the eye test is really just whatever is most marketable and most profitable for the committee.
To some extent, he's not entirely wrong. I mean, they do want to see these big blooded teams, the blue bloods, get in there. I mean, it's definitely more money, more revenue for them, but I don't know if they're necessarily like forcing it through. I jokingly say they're going to put Bama in no matter what, but I don't know. Does it really carry stock with y'all as well?
I mean,
As
yeah,
far
yes and no, but I don't know how Bama what eye test have they passed over Miami. Like I know Miami's defense is shit, but they're going to score a lot of points. So I don't know.
Davis says the top takeaway from a 3-loss Bama making the playoff is that 12 teams seems to be too many.
I thought they was going to. I think they're going to make it more. I'm going to be honest.
I thought we were looking at 14 potentially in the coming years very soon. Anyway,
Yeah, I think very soon they'll make it bigger. I don't think that they're going to make it any smaller by any means, but if anything, they'll go a lot bigger. My personal opinion.
My thing with this. Go ahead, Tyler.
No, you're good.
Well, going back to the Bama point, I mean, like if we want the 12 best teams in there, right? Can you name anyone? Can you name 11 teams better than Bama or 12 teams better than Bama? Because I don't think I can.
On paper, no.
Like I'm not advocating for Bama to get. I don't want to see a 3-loss Bama in there either. But I'm just saying from the committee's point of view, this is what they're going to fall back on. They're going to say, can you point to 12 better teams than Bama?
Yeah.
Right. And they're going to say, no, we can't. I can't.
I can't.
So
honestly, maybe South Carolina, they have a case.
Yeah, they have a case, but I mean, the committee's going to point to the fact they played each other, and
they
Bama
lost the
won,
head-to-head.
and
Exactly.
Bama won.
Yeah, and I think that's what the stipulant is for them getting in over South Carolina. But
and we also got to remember too, like these conferences are getting a lot better teams within them, right? Like SEC adding Texas and Oklahoma, Big Ten adding USC, UCLA, all Oregon. So what that means is you're going to see teams with more losses. Like we're so accustomed to seeing 11-1 teams, 12-0 teams play for the national championship. But by each team adding these top tier schools to their conference, you're going to see more and more teams make the playoffs with more losses just by virtue of they're playing against better teams week in and week out. Yeah. So I think for us right now, it's kind of a shock to see a team with 3 losses as a potential national championship contender. But in 10 years from now, I think it's going to be the norm because you're going to see more and more teams within these conferences play against like better teams each week. Like before, Ohio State would only play sometimes one game a season. They'll play Michigan and that's it. Now they play Michigan, Penn State. They got to play at Oregon. USC ever gets good, they got to play USC. Like that's more potential for losses. And I'm sure when the Big Ten added these schools, when the SEC added these schools, they might have got some commitment from the CFP saying, hey, we might lose these games, but it makes for a better product overall. So we want to be rewarded at the end of the season. So I'm just I'm not advocating for Bama to get in right now, but I'm just telling you this is what the committee's thinking.
Yeah. I'm also curious to see how losing the conference championship game affects teams, like how much stock they put into that too. Mm-hmm. When it comes to like SMU, for instance, like if they do lose this weekend, like are they out?
And that's kind of what I want to get into here now. The College Football Chair, Ward Banyal, says the order between the teams that are no longer playing is set. These teams will not be adjusted. Their order has been set. They can't go down or up in the rankings. So my question here for you guys, I have 2 questions I want to pose. They may be a little bit silly, but I'm going to ask them anyways here. If Clemson wins and they get that ACC spot, does a 2-loss SMU knock Alabama out, or is SMU out here? And then the second question I have here, and just the team as a whole has been very good this year. They have the best, in my opinion, the best player in the country. Boise State lost to UNLV this week. Could they knock Alabama out of the playoffs with 3 losses? Would Boise, or could either one, say UNLV beats Boise or Clemson beats SMU, could either one of them knock Alabama out of the playoffs here? So the ACC would get 2 people in, and Boise would keep their a spot as well. They would drop down to that 11th spot.
As far as Boise goes, no, and that's probably why that's the most. How do we say it? I'm most excited for that conference championship game, UNLV Boise State, because that's a winner. That's a winner out. Like if you win, you're making the CFP. You lose, you're out. I don't think a 2-loss Boise gets in without a conference championship. UNLV, if they win, they'll be the highest ranked conference champion, so they'll automatically get in. So I really feel like this is like this one in the Big 12. I guess Clemson too, but Mountain West and Big 12, it's winner go home. For each team. Yeah. ACC, so to answer your second question, SMU, are they in with a loss? Now, conventional wisdom should tell you yes, they should be in with the loss. You can't be penalized for losing your ACC conference championship game, especially riding off when you went undefeated during the regular season in your own conference, right? Like SMU should be in, but again, we're gamblers. This is a gambling podcast, right? We have to we have to listen to what the lines are telling us. This Bama minus 500 make the playoff indicates to me that if Clemson wins the game, there's going to be a real argument made between whether or not Bama or SMU should make the playoff. Now, I think we could all agree SMU should get in, but that minus 500 Bama getting in is essentially telling me Bama is in. They're going to get in the playoff somehow or another. It's going to come down to which ACC team loses. Clemson loses, no big deal. Committee could put Bama in easily. No one's going to complain that that Bama gets in over Clemson, right?
Yeah.
If SMU loses, if Clemson wins, that's the committee's worst nightmare. Because again, this line is telling us that, hey, not so fast. SMU is not safe. A 2-loss SMU versus a 3-loss Bama. Well, let's see. Who did Bama beat? They beat Georgia. They beat South Carolina. Who did SMU beat? Nobody, guys. Like, they really didn't beat anybody. Pitt, I guess, and Pitt's not very good anymore. Again, I like SMU. I think it's a great story. I want them in the playoff. I would have them in my playoff. But I'm just telling you, these lines are telling me that Bama will get in somehow, and it's going to come to the expense of the ACC champion, ACC conference championship loser.
And I think they're kind of flip flopping the case here, because they have come out and said, College Football Committee has come out and said that they take a lot of stock in who makes the conference championship, and they value that like very much. We've heard that with Georgia. Like, if Georgia loses to Texas, it don't matter. They're going to get in no matter what. You can't. How do you say that? But then a 1-loss SMU team, if they lose to Clemson, they're not going to get in.
Yeah,
Because you can't just say that about the SEC title game and then say the ACC title game don't mean as much. You've publicly come out and said that the teams that are in the conference title games, we value that very much, and the chances of them getting out of the bracket is very slim. But you're going to put in a 3-loss Alabama team to a 2-loss SMU team. That just don't make sense to me.
No, I agree with you 1,000,000%. Like, what you're saying is, like, SMU should get in. No matter, you shouldn't be penalized for losing your conference championship game. But again, I want to point for anybody listening to this, guys. This is a gambling podcast.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Vegas is not wrong. If they're hanging a minus 500 on Bama to make the playoffs, Bama's making the playoffs. Okay, like they're not going to miss it. They will get in. They will get in, and it's going to come. I think it's going to come to the expense of SMU if SMU loses, and this is going to cause a major controversy. Will it be as big as a controversy last year with Florida State? Who knows? But you're not setting a very good precedent very first year of the CFP being expanded, because
it's just going to want to make more teams go to the SEC and the Big Ten and form that super conference.
Well, it's going to make more teams deny, or it's like, if I was the ACC next year, I'm saying we're not having a conference championship game. Why have one?
Yeah.
What's the point? Like, we're going to we're losing a team making the CFP because a team lost a conference championship game while everyone else didn't play. Like, if you're the Big 12, you're your ACC. Like, I would say, what's the point?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really valid point too. I mean, why would you want to risk that penalization if, like, that's 2 years in a row, regardless of the size of that CFP, that your conference has gotten left out in some form or fashion? Like, it, obviously there's no conspiracy, but yeah, the conference may feel that way. They're going to be upset, and they're going to want to change something.
Another point here that Davis has brought up in the chat, and I've heard this talked about a lot, is not only would Alabama get in as the 11 seed, but they have a easier path to make it to the semifinals than the 8 or the 9 seed. I mean, the seeding here, there's just something wrong with the seeding here. I mean, we look at this right now, Tennessee and Ohio State. First of all, Ohio State, after losing to Michigan, a really bad Michigan team, is still going to get a home game against Tennessee. And then the winner of that game has to go and play the number 1 team in the country in Oregon. Meanwhile, Alabama has to go to Notre Dame. And I'm not saying that's an easy game, but they get to go play Notre Dame and then possibly SMU. Would you rather play Ohio State and Oregon or Notre Dame and SMU?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's rhetorical.
Yeah.
But
It's just, I don't know.
So, I mean, I think this is all going to, I mean, wasn't very well thought out on the CFP's part. Like, right, the committee did not think, they thought they had an idea of it, but now that it's actually happening in real time, yeah, we're pointing out all these flaws within the selection process and the bracket itself. As far as what you're saying right now is the seeding goes, there's a very simple solution to that. Now, they can't incorporate it this year, but next year they could just reseed after every round, right? Like, that isn't that a very simple solution? Like, okay, at the end of each round, the lowest ranked team will now play against the highest ranked team, and so on and so forth. And that'll take care of that. But again, I'm starting to get the feeling the committee did not think this thing through, this process. They just wanted to get. They just said, okay, we want 12 teams in there. We'll figure the rest out later. Let's get the money.
Yeah.
Because there's too many questions right now that still haven't been answered, and they're going to wait to the last possible moment, and it's going to cause a lot of controversy. So.
And then lastly here, I'll kind of have one or two more questions, and then we'll kind of dig into recap and conference championship games. The first question is, who is there a clear-cut favorite? Who are your guys' pick to make it to the title game right now? And then well, let's start with that one first. Is there a clear-cut favorite that you guys like, and who has the best chance to most likely be in that title game and win it all? I know that I'm personally biased here. I'm holding an Oregon ticket. I know Oregon is the current betting favorite. So I'm going to say Oregon, and they're the number one seed. But I've been on Oregon since before the season started.
As it's sitting on the bracket right now, I would say, I'm looking at the bracket. I think if Oregon can get through the quarterfinals, I think they have a very winnable, or I should say easier semi game to make it to the championship against Boise or the Big 12 and against Penn State.
Yeah.
Because that first game will be, either Tennessee or Ohio State. And I think that's going to be their hardest matchup until they get to the championship. But if they win that game, I think really it favors them, whoever they play in the semifinals, and then the championship. So as overall, as it sits, I would say Oregon. I would say Oregon as of right now, because I still have a lot of questions about this Texas team. But honestly, looking at their side, they've got winner of Indiana, Georgia to start off, and then they're going to have either Bama, Notre Dame, or SMU to play after that if they win, their quarterfinal game. So, if I'm, looking at potential matchups in the semis, I would rather be Oregon playing either Boise or Penn State or Arizona State than play really a Notre Dame or have to get through Indiana or Georgia first.
There's a chance Georgia plays Texas 3 times this year.
Mm-hmm.
But my title game right now, I think honestly is probably Oregon against Georgia. I'm like 60-40 Georgia Notre Dame here, but I'm gonna lean Georgia at the moment. Oregon versus Georgia.
Yeah, I'm gonna sound super homer, but I mean, looking at this bracket, I mean, you guys pointed out, the difference in like the strengths of the sides here, and I mean, Bama having to come to Notre Dame. I brought this up a couple weeks ago. Their Southern team, they're gonna have to play in South Bend in potentially like 15, 20-degree weather. They are not built for that. That could be a game we are built to win. Then we play SMU. Very much, I think there's a talent differential there. Then you're looking at potentially Indiana, Georgia, or Texas. And while all teams are good, I think they're very good matchup games. I haven't seen anything that tells me we'd get blown out or could just not handle those matchups. I think those are all winnable games. And then, you get through all that, you're in the Natty. And, I lean towards John and his Oregon ticket there. I think Oregon's got a very, very winnable route as well. Even if they have to face Ohio State, they've done it before. They showed that they could beat them offensively. And I mean, then you're looking at, potentially a Penn State rematch from the Big Ten title game. And we'll see how that plays out this weekend. But that looks like a very winnable route for them as well. So, I mean, I could see Oregon, Notre Dame natty. I could see Oregon, Georgia natty. But, I mean, I think those are the most winnable paths for sure.
Jose?
Yeah, I think there's 2 teams that I have power rated ahead of everybody right now, and that's Texas and Georgia. I still think Georgia's the best team in the country. So I've gun in my head, I'll take Georgia. Oregon should get there to the finals. I'd be surprised if they didn't. But I still think the SEC is supreme. So I'll say Georgia. However, going into last week, I was pretty convinced Ohio State was going to win. After they were the best team on paper, most talented team. But I can't overlook that loss, and that's a massive, massive problem they have going over there in Columbus. So, gun in my head right now, I'll say Georgia. Although I think Texas and Oregon are right behind them.
And last thing here, I kind of want to mention is, I know they didn't do it on purpose, but man, it looked like Ohio State was trying to lose that game and get a week off here. and they still get a home game. They still get a home game. Like they still get a home game. They get a week off. They don't have to play Oregon. It looks sketchy to me. I don't know, man. That was weird. That was really weird.
I get what you're. Go ahead,
ahead.
Brian.
I was gonna say that may have been the worst loss. Like, I mean, outside of my team's loss to Northern Illinois that I've seen quite literally all season. I mean, you play them on the perimeter, you win that game, and you chose to play between the tackles and against a defensive line that is quite literally the best in the country.
Michigan,
and they showed you, and you got dominated. You lost your center.
Missing their best player.
Like they're literally missing Will Johnson, and you chose not to attack those mismatches. I believe they also had another cornerback down for that game. Like their secondary was banged up, and you chose not to attack it. You had one drive where you went hurry up, and it worked. Like you caught Michigan making mistakes on the defensive backfield, and you got Jeremiah Smith in the end zone. And what do you not do in the second half? That you chose to play between the tackles again to prove some sort of point that Ryan Day wanted to prove, and you get dominated. Like it's just so horrific.
As far as intentionally losing the game, I can't get on that conspiracy just because there's legitimate questions as to whether or not Ryan Day is going to be the head coach now at Ohio State next year, just based off this one game. Yeah. You know, like when you take the Ohio State job, you're going full well knowing that your season comes down to 2 games. The Michigan game, the national championship. You win either one of those games, you're safe for the next year. So he lost the Michigan game 4 years in a row now. He's got to win the national championship to save his job, in my opinion. He's got to make the national championship to have a chance to save his job, in my opinion. But if he wins it, he'll be okay. But, I mean, that's one of the most brutal losses I've ever seen. I couldn't believe it. I was on the way to the USC Notre Dame game, so I wasn't really keeping in too much. But every time I checked the score, I just kept waiting for Ohio State to score. I kept waiting for them to take the lead, pull away. It just never happened. So massive credit to Michigan and Sharon Moore. I know we weren't his biggest fans in this podcast, but that's a hell of a win. That's a program-changing win right there if you're Michigan.
Yeah, note to self going forward for whatever reason. If Michigan's that big of a dog again, fucking hammer it.
Hey, look, we came on this podcast and
point dogs, bro.
Hey, we said that was too many points in a rivalry game. Now, we didn't advocate to bet it. We just said that was a lot of points. And then we all stayed away at that one. But I'll tell you what, guys, the way the Michigan players reacted and the way they celebrated, that might have meant more to them than the national championship last year.
Honestly,
just given the circumstances, how big of underdogs they were, nobody gave them a shot. You know, that deserved a massive celebration, and I'm kind of glad they planted the flag. It makes for better TV.
I think I was wrong because I kind of said I was definitely wrong. I kind of said I think this team's looking forward to next year at this point. I think the Bryce Underwood kind of got them hyped up for next year, and they showed up to play. But anyway, I don't know if anyone else has any tickets to make the playoffs, but I had that Tennessee to make the playoffs ticket. It looks like that's going to cash. Did anyone else have a make a playoff ticket?
Well, we as a podcast had Penn State, and that's going to cash.
And you had mentioned Indiana. I don't know if you took it, but
no, I didn't take it. But I mean, they're going to make it, and I never in my wildest dreams did I think Indiana would actually make the playoffs.
We were on SMU pretty early in the year too, so But we'll move on here. David says Notre Dame isn't a tough place to play, and it will be 40% Bama fans.
The crowd won't matter if those Southern boys can't handle the cold.
Before I want to get into these conference championship games, but before, does anyone want to add on to any games recapped wise real quick from last week? Jose, I know you were at the USC Notre Dame game. I've already given my recap on Michigan Ohio State. It looked weird. But look, I will say one thing real quick, and I'll let you kind of go into yours. The Georgia Tech game was one of the craziest games I've ever seen.
Yes,
overtime,
amazing game.
Yeah, I love the overtime rule change there. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. Georgia showed up, and the second half, like they do every week, they never show up for the first half, but they get it done. One of the craziest games. I want to give kudos to Brent Key and Georgia Tech, and he's done a lot for that program, and I think they got them one heck of a head coach, and they're going to be very talented for years to come. But Jose, you want to kind of recap that USC Notre Dame real quick, and we can move into some conference championship games.
Yeah, look, I was at the game. First and foremost, I want to give credit to Notre Dame, to Brian. I know we went head-to-head on this one. Notre Dame won. They made the plays when necessary. went on the road, came into USC, arch rival, and beat us. So I'm not going to take anything away from them. Okay, they won the game. More power to them. Good luck in the playoffs. Marcus Freeman, such a great game. He's now the head coach of the Bears, allegedly. Anyways, let me be very clear, okay? We as gamblers understand that sometimes you lose a bet when you shouldn't have lost, okay? Sometimes you pick a team that's clearly the right side and it doesn't always cash, okay? USC was the right fucking side in that game. I was very, very upset when that game ended. USC put up 560 yards of total offense on Notre Dame. And the reason why I'm so salty is because I came on this podcast and I extensively broke down that game and I put all this time and effort into the research and everything I said was true and it still wasn't enough. That's what frustrates me, okay? I came on here and I said that Notre Dame secondary has not been tested since Benjamin Morrison went down. Not really, once or twice maybe, okay? I also came on here and said that USC's receiving corps is the most talented receiving corps that Notre Dame has faced all season, bar none, right? A&M, Louisville, doesn't matter. USC's was the best one. And they should, in theory, have their way with Notre Dame. I thought they would win the game, but I thought for sure they would cover the game. They were within that number the entire game. And keep in mind, there were 6 fourth down attempts in that game. Notre Dame went for it 3 times on fourth down. USC went for it on fourth down 3 times. Notre Dame converted 3 out of 3. USC, 0 out of 3. Okay? Notre Dame had a fake punt.
Shout out Tyler Buckner.
Yeah, Tyler Buckner had a fake punt, right? Changed the momentum of the game. All that stuff combined, USC was still on the 1-yard line with a chance to tie the game. Throws a pick 6, runs it back. Game over, right? No, they get the ball and they drive it directly downfield again to the 1-yard line with a chance to cover the spread now that they rightfully should have done. And then another pick 6 for 100 yards. Just what I thought I've seen it all. I've seen back-to-back pick six in the span of 2 minutes to blow not only the game, but the cover as well. I know, Tyler, you were on USC with me. That must have been heartbreaking. I don't want to get into NFL, but we also had the Browns last night, which made it even more heartbreaking.
I'm sorry, my team sucks.
But again, more power to Notre Dame. Good luck to you guys in the playoffs. You guys deserve it.
Thank you.
Rebounding beautifully off that, early season loss. But leaving that stadium, yeah, I was pretty salty because I know what I saw, and USC was the correct side. They should have covered that game. Their offense looked amazing. Defensively, yeah, sure, we have a lot of problems. It is what it is. But we should have covered that game. That was the correct side. I don't care what anybody says when it comes to gambling. You know it. I know it. USC should have covered that game. I was extremely upset. But, that's the game we play, right?
Yeah, on the only really positive note I had on the weekend, my Q's, baby. Out there slinging the rock, son.
Yes, sir.
Syracuse, man.
Yes.
Out there slinging it. Threw for 380, ended up pulling the dub out.
And Fran Brown's post-game interview was magical. That was
yes.
Shout
that was
out
beautiful.
To you, Dabo.
Hey,
I got you in, baby.
Really quick on the topic of Tyler Syracuse, I just want to give a quick shout out. We've been doing this podcast for 3 months now. We've gone through the ups and downs of the season. And here on this podcast, we've adopted a few teams, right? Now we've orphaned them throughout the season, but for the most part, I just want to give a shout out to the teams that we adopted at some point. Week 1, or the first few weeks of the season, Wyoming, that was our team. And they got a massive win last week.
They did.
A massive, who did they beat? Wazoo, right?
Washington State, yeah.
I think it was 17-point dogs. At one point, that was one of our teams on this podcast that we advocated for. If anyone here from Reddit, you guys know that was the very first team that we gave out. And they got blown out by Arizona State.
Got destroyed.
But hey, that was one of our teams. Also want to give a shout out to ECU. At one point, one of our teams.
Every
week. We got their coach fired because after we started paying them, they fired their coach, and then we jumped off their bandwagon. But at one point, that was our team on this podcast. Navy, that was one of the teams that John talked us into. We adopted them, and they had a great run. I know they had some maybe a little more ambition. They got some more ambitions as the season went on. They thought maybe they could make a playoff run, but still, great season for them. Right? They deserve all the credit. Had a fantastic season, especially for Navy standards. Want to give a shout out to them. And then, of course, the team that we adopted the last 3-4 weeks of the season that made us all a lot of money. I know we've all been on a cold streak recently, but this team dragged us out of the depths of hell and rose above John's orphaned Kansas Jayhawks that I gladly took in. that we gladly took in, and we started riding that wagon, and they cashed for us every single week. And who knows how this Big 12 would have turned out if Kansas, continued to lose, because they fucked a lot of team seasons up.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I just wanted to give a quick shout out to all the teams that we've adopted throughout the season. Love all you guys. Jalen Daniels, quick question to you guys. Jalen Daniels is the starting quarterback at Kansas next season, yes or no?
No.
I don't think so either.
No.
I think it'll be a hot commodity on the transfer portal.
He will for sure.
But Devin Neal, my boy, you ran your ass off. Thank you for everything you've done. ECU, Wyoming, Navy, all the teams that we've adopted throughout this fun season. We wish you guys the best of luck in bowl season, except Wyoming. Wish you guys the best of luck in whatever you guys do in the offseason.
All right, and now let's move to these conference title games. Some big implications for some of these, and we're going to start off on the Friday night game, UNLV, Boise State. Boise State is -4, -110, over under 58. This one has playoff implications, guys. Sounds like Boise wins. They're obviously in. Boise loses. UNLV is going to take their spot. I personally lean UNLV +4 here, but I'll kind of let Jose start with this one and break it down, and we'll kind of toss it around the table and keep moving on through the night.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great way to start conference championship week. Friday night game. I hope we all watch this one. I know I will be. I'm excited for this one to the max, and I will be placing. Fair warning, I'm pretty cold right now, but this is a game I've been eyeing for a while. I will be placing a pretty large wager on the UNLV Running Rebels to cover this spread, to win the game. I think they make the CFP. I think they shock your average fan who's all about Ashton Jeanty. I think, UNLV takes this one, guys. Look, Boise State has been UNLV's kryptonite for the last, 2 seasons now. I want to say they met in the conference championship last year when Jaden Mayava was still the quarterback at UNLV. Boise State kind of, I don't want to say backed their way into that game, but they didn't. They finished the season 7-5. A lot of their players transferred. They still knocked off UNLV in the conference championship game, which is honestly kind of sad for UNLV. I know they had a great season last year, so I look for the revenge factor here. I look at that angle. I mean, like I said, they've knocked them off the last 3 or 4 times they've played them. But I want to go back to that game they played earlier in the season, UNLV against Boise State, because you got to remember, okay, I want to take a look at Ashton Jeanty. He put his name on the map with that Oregon performance, right? He looked amazing in that game. Boise State probably should have won that game, and that's when the national media and your average fan kind of they started understanding the hype with Ashton Jeanty, right? Again, he plays for Boise State, doesn't have the best opportunity to play against like these top tier competition week in, week out. So your average fan, again, didn't really know how good he was. But then UNLV pops up in the schedule. And that was a massive game, even for your average fans, right? Like that was a game everybody wanted to see. They wanted to see Ashton Jeanty ball out. He's been doing great the entire year. But come game day, throughout that game, that was kind of the start of the decline for Ashton Jeanty. I'm not saying he had a bad game, but UNLV did hold him to semi-respectable numbers, just compared to what he normally puts up. Right, Jackson Woodard, the star linebacker for UNLV, had a fantastic game, limiting Ashton Jeanty and Boise State's run offense. Now, Maddox Maxson played fantastic in that game, but let's not forget UNLV was actually up 10-0 at one point. They threw an interception on their own 4-yard line, which led to like a really quick touchdown score for Boise State. UNLV was holding their own in that game, guys. And again, that was the first game in which Ashton Jeanty kind of started falling off. After that game, I want to say UNLV put the blueprint out on how to stop Jeanty. And a lot of these other teams kind of just followed that. And he wasn't putting up the same numbers that he normally was. Now, he wasn't putting up bad numbers by any means. Don't get that, don't get it twisted. He was still putting up really good numbers, but not the numbers he was putting up in the first half of the season. Right? That's kind of why his Heisman odds kind of drifted away, just because he wasn't putting the numbers that we were accustomed to seeing earlier on. So UNLV has put the blueprint out. They know how to limit Jeanty. And again, they were doing fantastic up until the interception they threw in their own red zone. So I'm going to take UNLV here getting 4. I love the coaching staff, Barry Odom, Ryan Marion. I think Marion has the potential to be a really good G5, head coach. If not, I think he's going to make the move to a P4 team and take over an OC somewhere, because he's a fantastic offensive coordinator. Haj Malik Williams is still a really good player. Ricky White, fantastic. I'm sure he's going to block a punt again in this game. So I'm getting 4 points, which I feel like is a real coin flip game. Give me UNLV. I like this one a lot. I think they finally knock out Boise State. And they've been under the radar this entire season, right? Like we've been talking about different teams potentially as a team to take over the spot from Boise to be the last or to be the G5 representative. We talked about Army, Navy, even Tulane. UNLV just been really consistent. They've creeping their way up, and now they have the opportunity to shock the world and join the CFP. So I like it. I'm all over UNLV in this game, guys. I really, really think they cover this one, and I look for Hodgman McMillan to have a great game in this one.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot more to add to it as far as the breakdown goes, but I have already placed this bet as well. I placed it yesterday, actually. I'm also going to be riding the UNLV +4. I placed it yesterday. And the last matchup, I honestly think UNLV played better than Boise.
Yes.
I do think they all around played a better game. Now, the cards didn't fall their way and they ended up losing, but that's the way it goes sometimes. I thought in that game, in that matchup, they were the better team. I really did. So I like the revenge angle as well. 70% of the bets so far is coming in on Boise, which I know that's not everything, but something to at least look at. A lot of money coming in on Boise. I do think UNLV was the better team last time they played. Getting 4, this is something I have already bet. I'm going to be rolling with UNLV +4 as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna run with the Rebels here as well. You guys have said continuously through your breakdown that they were the better team in the last matchup. They showed people how to stop Genty, and now they've got the on-field experience. They've got the tape from last game. They can perfect and move on from the mistakes they made that cost them that matchup. And I think they cover. I think they outright win, and they're going to the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the key here, everyone has said, but they've already played once. They know what they need to do. I think Jackson Woodard, you know how you see a QB spy? I think he's going to be on a Genty spy all game. Jackson Woodard is going to be literally trailing wherever Genty goes the whole game. And that's going to be a key for them to win this game. But now we're going to move over to the Big 12 title game. My Iowa State Cyclones, baby, playing Arizona State. Arizona State -2, -110, over under of 51. I have no play on this game. Tyler, I'm going to come to you, let you kind of break this down here. Can Skoboda get it done with his legs and Sam Levitt, or is Iowa State going to be too much and be able to pull this outright to keep their playoff hopes alive?
I have not played anything for this game yet, but for as much shit as I talked on this Arizona State team before the season, and thank God I didn't place a bet because I'd have been another future I lost. I like Arizona State in this game. I do. I think they are an extremely, extremely, extremely physical team. And I think that they're going to be able to win this game. Scatterbo has come out as one of the best running backs in the country. We kind of highlighted him. The one highlight, I guess, we did do of Arizona State when we're doing the team breakdowns. If there was a highlight, it was him. Now, obviously, nobody thought it would be to, this magnitude. But the one bright side to this team that we did say was Scatterbo. And Sam Levitt has played a lot better than anybody expected. And when we saw Jeff Sims on the roster, we immediately thought, yeah, it's a wrap. Because he's just not the guy.
He stinks. Yeah.
But Scatterbo is a dog. He has really played as one of the best running backs in the country. And the thing with him is he runs so hard and he runs so physical. He picks up so many extra yards after contact just because he is so hard to bring down. I do think they're going to be able to wear Iowa State down a little bit. As long as they can control the ball, no turnovers. That's kind of the game they play. They're not real flashy. They just control the game. They hand the ball off. They get the ball to their best playmakers, and they control the game and they win. So I think they do the same thing here. Iowa State's kind of struggled. I know they won against Kansas State last week, but they played a lot of really close ball games. Seem to have struggled toward the end of the season. I'm going to go with Arizona State in this game. I haven't bet it, but I'd lean Arizona State to get the dub here.
Yeah, I think the key will be Sam Levitt and his legs. He's been somewhat of a surprise for me this year, throwing the ball and running. So I think he will be the deciding factor. I'm honestly kind of interested to see if Levitt will stay or move on in the transfer portal after the year's over, because I think that he's shown enough that where he could possibly move to a different team. Jose, you got anything to add to this game?
On that Levitt note, I'm curious to see where Kenny Dillingham goes. I mean,
Yeah.
he's had a fantastic season. He may get an offer somewhere else in the country to take over a more just a better team. Listen, I kind of like I always say in this game, guys. I respect what Arizona State's done this season. Scatabo, he's the truth. I don't disagree with that at all. But I have to take a look at who has Arizona State really beat, and by that I mean who have they really played in at the quarterback position. At their last 7 games, here's what they played. Okay, Arizona. Noah Fafita is garbage. This Arizona team is absolute garbage. Okay, they played BYU. We talked about how Res Claff is overrated. We faded him a few times. Okay, not very good. No credit there. You beat Kansas State. Now a good win, but Avery Johnson can't throw. He's a runner, right? Like he this whole season really hasn't progressed what we thought he would. But nice win though. I'll give him that one. They play UCF with UCF's third string quarterback. They play Oklahoma State with Oklahoma State's third string quarterback. They play Utah with Utah's fourth string quarterback, I think, at that point. And then they play Kansas with Jalen Daniels. Now, they won that game, Arizona State did, but Jalen Daniels put up 31 points. So the only real quarterback they played, Jalen Daniels, they gave up 31 to him. Rocco Becht is better than every quarterback on that list I just named except for Jalen Daniels, right? And the receivers that Iowa State has, Higgins and Noel, are better than pretty much every receiver on any of those teams aside from maybe McMillan on Arizona. But I'm not convinced on this Arizona State team, you guys, just based on who they played. They've got really lucky in some of these quarterbacks they went up against. I think Iowa State's a different animal. I trust Rocco Becht a lot more than any of those quarterbacks I just named. I'm getting 2 points here. I guess I'll take it. I don't feel strong about this one. This is more of a sit back, relax, and just watch the game, right? This is kind of just see what happens, enjoy the drama. But, gun to my head, I'll take Iowa State getting the points just based on the fact that Arizona State really hasn't played anybody, at least at quarterback. So, John, I hope your future cashes on this one. I'll be with you on Iowa State.
Magic, you got anything to add to the Big 12 title game?
Not much, but I'm riding with the Sun Devils here. I really think they've just gotten so extraordinarily hot. I think they're the team to beat in that conference, and they'll be representing the Big 12 in the college football playoff.
Mikhail in the chat says Scatterbo is the truth.
He is.
He's
Really
a dog.
damn good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
well,
all respect to Arizona State. They proved all of us wrong.
yeah, for sure. We were. I think they're. I honest to God can't remember, but I think their win total was like 4.5.
I think it's 3.5.
Yeah, it was down there.
And me and Tyler were like, we're taking that if it wasn't minus 200.
Yeah.
Mikhail says if they can control the clock and have success on the ground, it should be a really good game. I agree. So now we're going to move to the SEC title game here. Georgia at Texas, or neutral site game, but Georgia against Texas. Minus 2.5, minus 115 on Texas over at DraftKings, over under a 49.5. I'll kind of dive into this one real quick, seeing I'm a Georgia fan, and I think that no matter what happens, Georgia is safe. The committee's come out and said, they should be safe, they should be in. I think they're locked in. I know that Georgia wants to win this SEC title game. I don't think they're going to, though. I think after the grueling loss, the grueling win against Georgia Tech, 8 overtimes, the mental and physical fatigue from that game is going to show this week. Carson Beck, he does make poor decisions. Texas has played him once already. They kind of know what to expect here. We don't really have a true alpha at running back. We've been going to the freshman more than ETN. No receivers have still really emerged other than Oscar Delp at tight end. So I don't really know. I think Texas will get it done, but I don't think it will matter. My honest prediction would be Texas gets it done in the SEC title game, and then the third game, if they meet again in the semis, Georgia will win and go to the championship, the national championship. That's just personally what I believe is going to happen. I think Georgia I think they're going to be mentally and physically taxed to play this game. Kirby's going to try to have his boys ready. He always does, but I think that they're going to be mentally and physically taxed, and it's going to be tough on them. Texas has already seen them once. They know what to expect. I think they'll be in a good rhythm here and be able to get it done. Jose?
No, I like Georgia here. I think Georgia's the best team in the country still. Just the way I'm looking at that Georgia Tech game, fantastic win. I just view it as like a season-changing win. right? Like very emotional rivalry game.
Mhm.
Carson Beck looked really good the second half, made a lot of plays. The offense in general looked a lot better. I just think that, at least the way I'm interpreting it, is it's going to be a game that really changes their season, propels them to that next tier. Um, I got to go back to that game they played earlier in the season. Like, final score was 30-15, John, wasn't it?
Yeah, Georgia was
but
clearly the
but
dominant
it wasn't
Yeah.
close. Like, Georgia was far and away the better team. It's not like Texas has shown a lot more since then. I mean, they struggled with Arkansas. They struggled against A&M. I mean, they were always in control of these games, but they didn't really actually put them away. They didn't have that kill shot. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I don't know. Like, Quinn Ewers limping around, he looked okay. Arch Manning comes in. I know they ran their ball, but he looked explosive. Like, could there be any quarterback controversy into the CFP? Who knows? If they lose this game, there might be. I can't get over how impressive Georgia looked. When it was time to play, Georgia looked really, really good against Texas. I know that I really think a lot of us are just I don't want to say overblowing it, but that game against Bama where Georgia lost, I think all of us kind of remember that game and think to ourselves, like, oh yeah, Georgia's not that good just because of what happened there. But you take out that first quarter, Georgia dominated Bama. Like, it was literally only that first quarter. Besides that, Georgia was all over Bama. I still think this team is the best team, so I'll take Georgia getting the points too. You're right, nothing to play for really for either team. But just assuming all things are equal, like I said, I can't get over just how well Georgia played against Texas, in Texas, by the way.
Do the slow starts not concern you a little bit? Because it to me, it as a Georgia fan seeing it, it's every single week almost that they just come out the gate so slow and sluggish and inaccurate or turnovers, and then the second half it's like a I don't know what it is, but it's like a switch flips, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you play against these better teams, right, like these Oregons, these Texases in the CFP, you really can't afford to do that.
Mhm.
You really can't afford to do that. But if Georgia were able to just correct that one mistake, just come out the same way they finished the game, they're winning the national championship. No one's gonna hang with them,
Yeah,
right? That's all they got to
I
do.
do agree with that. Yes.
If Kirby can channel that, energy, that he gets in the fourth quarter and display in the first quarter, no one's beating Georgia. So
Be Magic. You got anything to
Yeah,
add to that?
I'm honestly riding with the dogs. I mean, they went into Texas and they beat them, doubled their score. Again, clearly the dominant team. I don't
Mhm.
think outside of just a horrific first half, they're really going to struggle this game. If they come out and they play smart football, they're actually able to run. Carson Beck's not making lame duck interceptions. The wide receivers can fucking hang on to the ball for you guys. I
Yeah.
mean, you guys will dominate. But I think the last point I made is a big one. You guys need to catch your passes. Like, there's so many drops when I
A lot
watch
of
Georgia
drops.
games. It's
Yep.
it's painful, and so many of them just take points off the board for that team. And just hang on to the fucking ball, and you guys are fantastic. Like, that's your game plan. Catch the
I
ball,
think
no drops.
I think the run game as a whole this year has been down because a lot of teams have keyed in on stopping the run for this team
Yeah,
because they don't have an elite receiver that can change the game for them other than Oscar Delp, and Oscar Delp's no Brock Bowers. You know what I mean?
no, nobody's Brock Bowers.
Yeah. Tyler.
Uh, I don't really know, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
For the sake of having to pick a team, I'm gonna go with Georgia as well. But it's really hard for me to get behind either team. And really, since the Bama Georgia game, really any game that Georgia and or Texas has been a part of, I've stayed away from betting. Um, because neither team, if Georgia does have troubles in the first half, but Texas, outside of a few games this year, just hasn't come out and lit it up either. They did well against Michigan in week 2, fine. They did well against Mississippi State, trash. Oklahoma, who was terrible, and that's a big rivalry game, so you know that they're always going to get up for that game. But I mean, other than that, it was a depleted Florida team and a sorry Kentucky team. So, like, when they have played good competition, it's like they just hadn't come out and lit it up either. So it's really hard for me to back either team. So it kind of sucks as far as betting goes, who I'm going to take. But with how the last matchup went, and I do think Georgia overall is better. I lean Georgia in this game. Don't feel great about it. Am I going to bet it? Don't know. Probably just for the sake of we only got very few games left until it's all over. So I'll probably have something on all of them just because we're getting near the end. But I don't feel 100% about it.
Y'all see what I did there, right? If we all four would have took Georgia, they would have lost. So I knew to take Texas. I'm
yeah, you're
protecting my
right.
dogs. I'm protecting my dogs. All right, moving on to another one that don't really matter, but we're going to talk about it here. It's a big game. Penn State and Oregon. Oregon's -3.5, -110, over under of 49.5. I will have no play. I'm just going to ride out my Oregon future here as long as I can and hope they can pull it out. But Brian, I'm going to throw this one over to you here. Penn State and Oregon -3.5. Oregon. What do you have to say about this game?
I mean, outside of the first couple weeks of the season, I mean, Oregon's really handled business, right? I mean, they've looked dominant. They got things figured out with the offensive line, which was the initial concern over the first couple weeks. And their offense has been very efficient. They have a great running back. Their quarterback and Dylan Gabriel is, he's doing his job. Initially, he was just looking for the short routes, but like they figured out how to open it up deep downfield as they got the offensive line working. They've played very well throughout the season. And outside of a couple games, like the Wisconsin game, and again like the Idaho game early in the season, and Ohio State, of course, they haven't really been challenged, and like they've really just been able to run the table. Meanwhile, you look at Penn State, and while they've been a very good team, a very formidable team this year, you look at their game against Bowling Green, where they were very much struggling throughout the majority of that game. You look at their matchup against Ohio State, where their offense couldn't really do much of anything right. And you look at some of their other matchups, look at them play Minnesota and, other teams, and like their body of work just isn't near the same as Oregon's for me. And I think the Ducks are going to put it on them. I think Oregon, for the most part, they play pretty vanilla outside of these really big games. And I think they're about to open up the playbook. And we'll see if Penn State secondary can keep up. But I see something around maybe 35-24, Oregon wins that ball game. Like it'll be close for the most part. I think it'll be closer than the score indicates, but I think Oregon's offense is going to be able to get it going. Abdul Carter will have an impact for Penn State, but I don't think it'll be enough.
Tyler, you got anything to add to this one?
Yeah, these games are hard to break down just for the fact of for either team it doesn't really make shit because they're both in regardless. Now, obviously you want to win the game, but you also I also think that both of these teams are looking at the bigger picture. Either way, they're in. And so
if Penn State lost, would they drop down or would they stay the 5 seed?
I would say they probably stay the same, honestly.
Yeah. So like, what's the point?
That's what I'm saying. Like that's what is what makes it hard about really either one of these teams. I guess I don't know if this is a thing for Oregon, but saying undefeated, won the conference championship, number 1 seed, that whole ordeal maybe. But it's really hard to predict really a lot of these games that don't matter just because of how are these teams going to come out and play. Obviously, you want to win those games, but if it doesn't make shit, you're not really going to move a whole lot, and you're in regardless. Then it's harder. But for it being a conference championship game, Penn State has played pretty well. Now they should have lost to Minnesota, 100%. But Minnesota's defense is very, 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 very good, very, very good, especially in the secondary. Getting 3.5, I feel like betting wise, I have to take Penn State to cover the spread. I'm not saying they're going to win. I don't think they will. But as far as betting goes and the number that's out there right now, I do feel like Penn State is the play as far as the betting goes.
Yeah, and real quickly here, for me, it don't even matter if Oregon lost this game; they would just flip flop with. They wouldn't flip flop with Penn State, but Penn State wouldn't be the 1 seed, but Oregon would be the 5 seed, and they would still get to stay on that side of the bracket.
Yeah.
So they would still have a fairly easy path to get to the title game. But Jose, go ahead.
This game does matter, guys. It matters to one man, James Franklin, the guy who cannot win a big game to save his life. Here's another opportunity for you to go out there and knock off a top-tier opponent, the number 1 team in the country, and steal a bye heading into the CFP. Like, I think it's fair to say, right? If you have if you understand, if James Franklin is realistic about his chances, he understands his team is not as talented as some of the other teams in the CFP, Oregon, Texas, Georgia, Bama, even. Like Penn State is not on that level of talent, right? So you need this game because you can get that bye, and it'll exponentially increase your chances of winning this. You need every break you can get, right? Like it'll increase your chances of winning the CFP. dramatically if you have a first round bye and you stay on that side of the bracket. You need a. I mean, Dan Lanning, how do I say it? Like, I'm not saying James Franklin's job is in danger. It's not. But Dan Lanning, no one's questioning his ability to win big games, right? No one's questioning that. Like, for him, what's the point of winning this game, really? He wants to keep everybody healthy. James Franklin needs to win this game because he needs to prove the doubters wrong. He hears the critics. He understands how it works. And I can back that up by the fact that every game Penn State plays, they are playing to cover or they're playing to hit the over in every game. If you go back and look at the last 4 or 5 games Penn State's played in, they are actively trying late in the fourth quarter to try and cover the spread because he wants to prove to everybody that, you know what, I'm doing better than what I'm supposed to do. The spreads, if we're supposed to win by 20, the spread's 20, we're going to win by 21. We're going to win by 24 because I'm better than what you guys think I'm better than what you guys think about me. He hears all the naysayers and the doubters. Trust me. This is a great opportunity for him to go out here and knock off a top-tier team. Now, thankfully, his team actually has, the players to compete in this game. And I'm getting 3.5 points. I'll take the field goal on the hook. I like this one quite a bit, guys. I really think Penn State can flex their muscles here. I know Tyler talked about how Penn State almost lost to Minnesota. Minnesota's a respectable team.
They're good.
They have a damn good defense.
They do. Very good defense.
Let's not forget the fact that Oregon was in a dogfight a few weeks ago against Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And Wisconsin is nowhere near the same level as Minnesota, offensively,
Right.
defensively, nowhere. And Oregon was really in danger of losing that game for a majority of it. Okay. So yes, these Big Ten teams always show up to play each other, especially at home. It is what it is. I'm not going to sit here and say Oregon's a bad team just based off that one performance. They're still a really good team, but they have their kryptonites, right? Their receivers, they rely on them so much. Them and Dylan Gabriel, right? Penn State secondary should be able to hold up here. They have, potential all Big Ten players in that secondary, especially their safety. Forget his name, but really, really good player. Defensive line, we talked about it. Abdul Carter, he should be able to wreak havoc. This Oregon offensive line, while it has gotten better throughout the year, Ohio State still had some success, rushing the passer against them. And that's the best defense they've played the entire season. I know, and I think it's pretty comparable to say that Penn State's defense is similar to what Ohio State has on their roster. Like I said, this game means much more to Penn State than it does Oregon. James Franklin, he hears the naysayers, he hears the doubters. He's going to try and respond here. I think Penn State's defense and secondary especially should be able to match up pretty well with this Oregon offense. Oregon's played, phenomenally all year. I'm not going to sit here and discredit them, right? They are one of the best teams. But this late in the season, we're so used to seeing one team, the number one overall team, being far and away the best team in the country. That's not the case this year. So I don't think we should be blinded by the fact that Oregon has that one next to their name, right? Next to their school. While they still are a great team, it's not like they're far and away better than some of these other teams. So I'll take the 3.5. I think Penn State matches up well. I think it should be a great game. And again, James Franklin, he understands everything. He is trying to play for this cover and try to play for this win. Absolutely 100%.
Yeah, I don't have a play here. Like I said, I'm going to ride my Oregon Natty out. But I want to slightly off topic, but not really. I was a big Drew Aller fan through the year. I still like the kid. I think he has all the talent in the world. But I almost think if they would play Bo Prabella here, they would win this game. I think that he is better fit for this system with his legs. I think he's somewhat a little bit more accurate as well. But I don't know. It's just kind of off topic.
Well, hey, we discussed last week, right? Me and Tyler were kind of going back and forth about the idea of A&M starting Weigman over Marcel Reed. Yeah. I mean, we had been on this podcast advocating for Marcel Reed for weeks, for months. And then I came on here and said, listen, guys, A&M can't run the ball for shit. So what difference does it make if you have Marcel Reed back there? You still can't run anyway. So might as well put the quarterback who can actually throw a little better.
Yeah.
And have him back there. And I mean, I'm not trying to beat my own horn here, but we were right. I mean, I was right because A&M didn't score a single point on offense. It's not like it'd be much worse if you had Weigman back there.
Yeah.
So the idea of flopping quarterbacks, I don't think Penn State would ever consider it, but it's not the worst idea in the world. If the matchup calls for it, I don't think it's that ridiculous to float the idea.
Yeah. And lastly, but not least, another game with huge implications here. Maybe the biggest implications of the weekend. Clemson and SMU, the night game. SMU is -2.5, -110. Over under of 57. Jose, I'm going to let you break this one down for us. Big game here with a lot of implications.
I kind of wanted to go last. Anybody want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go real quick. I have waffled back and forth on this game quite a bit. I really have. I've been saying I probably looked a little bit more at this game, which I know Jose's got a lot to say, so I'm not gonna go very far in depth. I'm gonna let him say his piece. But I have gone back and forth quite a bit on this game, and I have not decided what I'm gonna do yet. Am I gonna bet it? Yeah, I have to, but I have not decided what I'm gonna do. But at first glance, well, I say at first glance, at 10th glance, and the way I lean right now, I think I lean Clemson. I think I really do. Look, we advocated for SMU. SMU is a team we highlighted back in June, July, whenever we started this thing, right? We have been SMU
I was
writers.
all over him. I was all
Yeah,
over 'em.
we have been SMU writers for the success of this program for 6 months now. Outside of the first couple weeks, they have beat the shit out of everybody. The first couple of weeks, it took them a couple of weeks to get together, made a quarterback switch. Everything changed. Offense, everything lit up. But it's hard for me to take them because they haven't played anybody, nobody at all. Now, I know Clemson has had its struggles on both sides of the ball. It's hard for me to take SMU in this matchup for the fact that they have played absolutely nobody. Who's the best teams that they've played on their schedule? What? Pitt,
TCU maybe. I
TCU,
guess.
maybe
Louisville.
Louisville. I mean, middle of the tier teams at best. Um,
Pitt's lost 5 games in a row, by the way.
yeah, they
Yeah,
have.
they've fallen off completely.
That's a
Um,
team. I know we'll get into bowl season later, but that's a team I'm looking to fade in bowl season, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like it's hard for me to trust me, there's not a fiber in my body that doesn't want to back SMU in this game. Just because of the love that we gave them back in the summer. But I don't know that I can. They haven't played anybody. They haven't really been tested other than Duke, I guess, in the overtime win. That's their one close game. And Louisville was pretty back and forth earlier in the year, but their last 4 games have been Pitt, Boston College, Virginia, and Cal. 3 out of the 4 they got at home. So they haven't really had to travel late in the season. They've been playing good football, but they haven't played anybody. Is my only concern. So I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. As of right now, I'm leaning Clemson. It may change, which is why you should follow everybody on Action, because I may change my mind 15 more times before I actually place the bet come Friday. So as of right now, I'm going to say Clemson, but Jose, I'm going to let you say your piece, or Brian, let you go, and then Jose, say your piece. See what y'all think.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna ride with SMU on this one. I just think they're a really hot team going into this game, and they have a point to prove in their first year in the ACC. You know, on top of that, from a financial perspective, they make the playoffs. They do get an ACC revenue share, which they wouldn't get otherwise. So there is actually like football money on the line for this game down the road for SMU. So they really do want to win this game for the
That's a good point.
university.
That's a
So
really good
like
point.
this really means a lot for them because otherwise they're not getting any revenue share. I believe what for the first 10 years of conference for them.
Yeah.
Like this is a big deal for them all around. So I think one, they're a hot team, and two, this really matters for the program on many levels. So I'm taking SMU here.
My biggest question is, can Clemson's defense stop SMU's offense? That's my biggest question. It's SMU's offense against Clemson's defense, in my opinion. And that was one thing we did point out, Tyler. You just mentioned is we mentioned that SMU at the end of the year, if they can get to it, their schedule is super easy, and they get all the games at home.
Yeah, it was
So
cake.
so that it was going to be a cakewalk for them if they were in a position to make this run, and surely enough, they were.
Honestly,
Um,
all their toughest games was BYU in the second game of the year, the week after when they played TCU, and then 2 weeks after that when they played Louisville. From the middle
Hmm.
of October through the rest of the year, I mean, their schedule is at Stanford, at Duke,
yeah.
Pitt at home, Boston College at home, at Virginia and home versus Cal.
Clemson lost to Louisville 21-33, and then SMU beat them 34-27. But that's different parts of the year too. So I don't know here. It's tough. I lean SMU. I think their offense will be too much, but it's really, really, really tough here because I have sung the praises of Clemson's defense all year. Um, they've been very stout. They rarely give up more than 20 points, other than that Louisville game and against Georgia. Um, so yeah, it's tough to say here. It depend. It really depends on if Clemson's defense shows up SMU's offense, or who can just really make more plays, in my opinion. Jose, go ahead.
I want to quickly point out that SMU should have lost to Duke. And that was another team that was kind of like our team.
Yeah.
They should have lost that game, by the way.
Their over-under was 5.5, and they won 9 games.
Hey, out of all the over-unders within the entire FBS, that was our biggest over. Like, okay, take Duke over. That was like the very first one we ever came out with on the first podcast of the ACC.
Five and a
said,
half.
The
"Hey,
very
Duke
first
over."
episode.
Yep.
Yeah,
that
we
was the very
said-
first pick we gave out. Yeah.
And we said out of every team in the country, this is the one we feel the best about, Duke over 5.5.
And they cashed out like 7 weeks in.
Yeah. Now, trust me, they're not very good, but they
Yeah.
cashed, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Listen, I actually wanted to go last because I thought I was going to be a lone wolf on this one. But I'm actually really glad that Tyler broke it down the way he did, because you have to back Clemson in this spot, in my opinion. Now, I get it. SMU is coming to this game ridiculously hot, like Brian said. They've been a wagon the last 4 or 5 weeks of this season. They beat nobody, but the teams they're beating the shit out of them. So that does mean something, okay? But when this game was announced, once Miami lost, and people realized it was going to be Clemson SMU, and the book started putting lines out. This line did not open MCU minus 2.5.
No,
This
Clemson
line
was
opened.
there.
This line opened Clemson minus 3. Okay, that should go to show you what the books think of this matchup. All right. Now all the money came in on SMU. Everyone saw SMU's underdog against Clemson. The Clemson we just watched lose against South Carolina in heartbreaking fashion. Yeah, we'll bet SMU. Yes, Clemson did lose to South Carolina, but we've been on this podcast for weeks saying that South Carolina is one of the best teams in the country.
Mhm.
There's no shame losing to South Carolina, and it came down to the last play of the game, and Clemson almost could have won that game. They had a chance to win that game, aside from a tipped interception that I think the South Carolina linebacker caught or something like that. Look, John also highlighted as well. I think this game is all about the Clemson defense, because while SMU hasn't played anybody in general, the defenses they played this entire season have been absolutely horrible, guys. The only defense you could say they really played this entire year is BYU, and that was the only game they lost. They only put up 15 points. I know they had some quarterback issues earlier in the season, but still, they put up 59 the week before against it was an FCS school, but whatever. They put up 66 the week after, 42 after that against Florida State. Like, the offense has always been rolling, right? Because they played nobody. The one team they played this entire year, BYU, who had a pulse on defense, they only put up 15. And Clemson's defense is better than BYU's. I thought I was going to be a loner on this one, but I like Clemson here. I don't love them. I don't want to back Dabo because I think he's kind of fallen off, to be honest with you. But this is it. This is Dabo's swan song. Like, he wins this game. This is his last chance to be relevant, in my opinion. You were gift wrapped an opportunity to make the CFP by Syracuse. They did you a massive favor and gave you the opportunity to make it, right? You couldn't handle business last week against South Carolina. Someone else had to handle business for you. Here's your opportunity, Dabo. Take it. Show that the way you coach football is actually relevant in 2024. This whole no transfer shit, will pay off. I'm going to ride with Clemson, guys. I'm going to back Dabo one last time here. I think we might be overlooking that loss last week against South Carolina to a team that's really, really good, that I think has CFP potential. So give me Clemson. Give me the Tigers getting 2.5. I have not bet this one yet because I still feel like the money's going to come in on SMU. If it gets to 3, I'm going to have to take Clemson.
Oh, no.
I will. I'll be on Clemson for sure. Will it get to 3? John, what do you think? I don't think it does. But if it did, I would have to be on Clemson at that point.
I'm not sure it's going to get to 3.
I think it's going to stay where it's at. I think it's going to stay at 2.5.
I think it's going to stay where it's at. A lot of honestly, 3 of these games are at 2.5, and I think they're all going to stay around that line. But I'm going to transition over into our best bets, because I was going to kind of say that for my bets this week, I'm on UNLV +4, and I have no other bet for college football. I'll be betting some college basketball. I will say that the most interest I have is that Clemson SMU game, and I will most likely be watching to see how the Clemson's defense is playing and live bet that game.
John, you got to bet more than one game. It's conference championship weekend.
I know. It's just tough. I It's just I want to live bet this game. There's a lot of games this weekend. I really think live betting is going to be your best option, to be honest. And always, guys, always remember that that's an option. You don't have to bet before the game starts. You can always live bet a game. Um,
Hey,
just
maybe
to
we should
kind of,
listen to Brian because he went 4 for 4 last week on the podcast.
yeah.
Yeah.
He killed it.
And Brian makes a good point about the ACC revenue thing. That's a really really good point.
Yeah, I didn't even consider that
Um,
one. Really good point.
I'll be on UNLV. I'm gonna live bet that Clemson SMU game. If Clemson goes down, if SMU scores quick, I'll probably take Clemson live. If Clemson scores quick, I'll probably flip and take SMU live. I think it's gonna be really, really, really close. Um, but other than that, that's kind of what I'm looking to play this week. I'll have some basketball bets on my action that you guys can follow. I'm not gonna give any out tonight. There's just so many. There's literally so many games tomorrow that are high quality, March Madness type games.
Brian's Auburn Tigers.
Yeah. So you guys can tune into my action for those. I'm not going to break any of those down tonight. There's just way too many good games. But yeah, UNLV +4, and I'll probably live bet the Clemson SMU game. Jose, what you got, man?
UNLV +4. Sprinkle the money line. I think UNLV takes this one. I think we're all in agreement on that one. Love UNLV this week. Probably my biggest bet of the weekend. I also really like Penn State. I'll be taking that 3.5. James Franklin, don't burn me again. They say, what's that common phrase? Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me once, shame on you, or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, he's fooled me like 50 times already, and I'm still coming back. So if I lose this one, it's on me. I'm not gonna at this point. I'm not gonna scold James Franklin anymore. It's purely on me at this if he loses for me. But I'll be on Penn State. Just think there's some value there, getting the hook on that field goal. Clemson getting 2.5. Haven't bet it yet, but if it gets to 3, just know I will be on Clemson in some capacity. Just again on a matter of principle there. No massive play or no lean no play in the cards right now on that Arizona State game yet. But if I had to do something, I'd probably lean Iowa State. So yeah, I plan on betting every college football game this weekend, every conference championship game. I want to. It's our last weekend with it. But as of right now, those are my 3 main plays: UNLV, Penn State, and Clemson.
Big T.
Also on UNLV +4, I have already bet it yesterday. So I'm gonna be on that. I've also already bet Penn State +3.5. Ready to get hurt again by Penn State, going back for thirds, literally. Ohio State game last year, Ohio State game this year, and then this game. So ready to be disappointed in Penn State again, but I think there's value as far as betting there, so I'm going to take that, or I already have taken that. Haven't placed anything for the Big 12 yet. Lean Arizona State. I will be betting it just because it's conference championship weekend, so I will be placing something on all of them. Haven't bet it yet. Lean Arizona State at this moment in time. And then for the ACC championship, I will be betting Clemson. Haven't bet it yet. Like Jose said,
I would recommend everyone to try and wait for that 3. I just don't know if it's going to come.
Yeah, I don't think it will, but I don't see it going down either.
Yeah,
exactly. But if it did come, Tyler.
If it did go to 3, oh yeah, without a doubt, I'm prepared to take it at 2.5. If it gets to 3, like the second it gets to 3, I'm taking it.
It will go
right then.
Have notifications on, guys.
Yes, if it goes to 3, it's not going to last.
Yeah,
maybe 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, so
at most.
If it gets to 3, I will 1,000% take it. I don't think it will, but I don't see it going down either. So I'm prepared to take it at that 2.5, but I'm going to wait and see if it does get to that 3. But either way, I'll be on Clemson in that game.
B Magic, the hot man himself, 4 for 4 last week. What you got for us?
All right, I'm gonna round it out here with another +4 to UNLV. Like that's like it just seems like the right move here. And then I'm gonna go against the grain here, and I'm taking the Ducks -3.5. I'm really, really confident on that pick, and I'm really, really not confident in James Franklin. And I think that's as simple as that. Take the Ducks, like I said, 3.5 -3.5, and I'll take the Run Rebels +4. And I think those are my picks for the week. I think I'll have more picks come college football playoff time, but I think I'm saving that till then.
Good deal. We'll be back next week. We'll kind of break down the final bracket, Army-Navy game, probably do a little bit more college basketball next week or some NFL games. kind of be an open bag next week. We appreciate all y'all tuning in, like subscribers. We've been gaining subscribers every week. We love you guys so much. We enjoy being here. It's a lot of fun. Go over to Action. Look on Reddit for us, the Boulevard Pod. Go over to Action, the underscore Boulevard. Follow my personal Action for basketball, J Humphrey 25, Jose 808. Tyler, your Action is Tyler Lyles 918. You all go follow those. I don't think Brian, you've been posting on Action, right?
Not yet. I'm gonna be more active with that very
Okay,
soon.
but yeah, so those are Jose 808, J Humphrey 25, Tyler Lyles 918, and the underscore Boulevard. Give them all follows. We all post plays every single day. I have basketball plays almost every day. I took a break for the holidays. I'm also trying to snap a little bit of a cold streak here with Jose. It's been
We all are at this point.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's been
Except
tough
Brian.
late. It's been tough lately, but God, I hope I can snap it tomorrow because the games are insane for college basketball. I
We'll be all
love you
right.
guys. We love you guys. We thank you for all your support. We'll be back next week, probably Tuesday night, maybe Wednesday. We'll tweet it out on our Twitter to let you guys know. But tune in next week. You might see a little more college basketball or NFL after breaking down the bracket.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm gonna post some NFL too, for sure. Primetime games at least.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
Jose and Tyler's always posting NFL games. Um, I'm always posting college basketball. I post a little bit of golf. There's a big tournament this week, Hero World Challenge. So y'all just tune into our actions. We got lots of picks. Not all of them are on the Boulevard action. Um, Only our best bets. So we appreciate you guys. We love you guys. We'll see you next week. We'll tweet out the time and the date. Expect a little more college basketball or NFL. Uh, Anybody got anything to add before we head out?
Hey, we'll be here during bowl season, guys. I plan on
Yeah.
betting every bowl game this year in some
Yeah.
capacity, just for some fun. We love this time of year. We love college football. It's bittersweet end of the season, so we had a fun ride. If you followed us on Reddit or at Action, we went 23-9 this year on our best bets. There's still more to come. But I think we all plan. I personally plan on betting damn near every bowl game this year in some capacity. Maybe very small each game, but just to have some fun before the season ends. So make sure you follow us to keep be up to date on that.
Yeah, which college football's not over yet, but we are getting towards the end, which kind of sucks. But I just want to say thank you to everybody who's tuned in, each week, because I know I don't speak for everybody, but I'm sure everybody feels the same because it's how I feel. This has been an absolute blast.
We never expected this much support.
Yeah, going back to the summer breakdowns, not gonna lie, it was an absolute grind. Breaking down every team, transfer portal, NIL, the whole deal. But it was a blast, and I'm glad we did it.
And we'll do it again next year.
And we'll look forward to doing it again next year. So it sucks that it's almost over, but I've had an absolute blast doing this week in, week out with y'all.
Hey, I never would have guessed we would have a few thousand viewers at the end of the year.
Honestly, yeah.
It's a massive, and I know we're not the best, but our record speaks for itself. At the end of the day, I don't care if I listen to static noises the entire time. If they're handing me winners, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So we've been handing out winners, and we hope everyone's been cashing.
We appreciate Brian joining us. I think he's going to ride it out till after the national championship game with us. He's giving good insight, giving out some good bets for y'all. So he's going to stick with us. But like I said, this is not the end, guys. There's still a lot of college football left. The playoffs, the most important part of the season. And then we will be doing NFL. We love NFL. We're good at NFL as well. So we will start transitioning to NFL and college basketball, March Madness, into transfer portal, signing day, and then back up, literally straight back into off-season breakdowns into next year. So not going anywhere. We'll still be here every week. We love you guys. We thank you for all your support. Y'all have a great night. Peace, love, happiness. Be kind to each other. Peace out.